The morning sun cast long shadows across the alien landscape as Captain Jae-ho Kim checked his equipment one final time. The planet Cathera stretched endlessly before him, its purple grass swaying in the gentle breeze. He had been on this world for 3 weeks now, collecting samples and mapping the terrain for the Earth's colonial survey. It was supposed to be a routine mission. It's nothing more than cataloging flora and fauna for future settlement possibilities. Jae-ho adjusted his pack and started walking toward the dense forest that had caught his attention 2 days earlier. The trees here were unlike anything he had seen on Earth or the other colonies. They grew in perfect spirals, their silver bark gleaming in the alien sunlight. Strange flowers bloomed at their bases, releasing a sweet scent that reminded him of his childhood home and soul. As he approached the forest edge, something felt different. The usual sounds of small creatures moving through the undergrowth had stopped. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Jae-ho paused, his hand instinctively moving to the scanner on his belt. The device showed normal readings, but his instincts told him otherwise. A low whine echoed from deep within the forest. It was a sound of pain, desperate and haunting. Jae-ho hesitated. His training clearly stated that he should avoid contact with unknown wildlife, especially predators. But the sound came again, weaker this time, filled with such suffering that it made his chest tighten. He activated his personal shield and drew his plasma pistol, then stepped carefully into the forest. The whining continued, leading him deeper into the maze of spiral trees. The sound of his boots on the soft ground seemed too loud in the unnatural silence. After 20 minutes of careful tracking, Jae-ho found the source of the sound. In a small clearing ahead, a large wolf-like creature lay on its side, breathing heavily. Its fur was deep blue with silver markings that seemed to shimmer in the filtered sunlight. But what made Jae-ho's breath catch was the obvious signs of plasma. Burns across its flank, and the clear evidence that the creature was heavily pregnant. The animal's eyes opened as he approached, revealing intelligence that startled him. These were not the eyes of a simple predator, but of something far more complex. The creature tried to lift its head, then collapsed back with a soft whine. Jae-ho could see the fear in those ancient eyes, but also something else. Hope. For a moment, they stared at each other across the clearing. The creature's sides heaved with each labored breath. Jae-ho could see that without help, both she and her unborn young would die. His training screamed at him to leave, to report the discovery, and let the science team handle it. But looking into those intelligent eyes, he knew he could not walk away. Slowly, Jae-ho holstered his weapon and knelt at the edge of the clearing. He spoke in a soft, gentle voice, the same tone he had used with injured animals as a child. "Easy. There, girl, I am not going to hurt you." The creature watched him carefully as he opened his medical kit. The burns were worse than he had initially thought, clearly made by military-grade plasma weapons. Someone or something had hunted this pregnant animal and left her to die. The thought made anger rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. Would be time for anger later. Working slowly and speaking continuously in his calm voice, Jae-ho began to clean the wounds. The creature tensed at first touch but gradually relaxed as she realized he was trying to help. He applied synthetic skin patches to the worst burns and gave her a mild pain reliever from his emergency supplies. "There," he said, sitting back on his heels. "That should help with the pain, but you need food and water." As if understanding his words, the creature's stomach rumbled audibly. Jae-ho smiled despite the situation. He pulled out his water container and poured some into his collapsible bowl. The creature lifted her head and drank gratefully, her long tongue lapping at the precious liquid. Food was more complicated. Jae-ho had only military rations, but he opened one of his protein bars and offered it to her. She sniffed it cautiously, then took a small bite. Her eyes widened slightly, and she ate the rest quickly. He gave her 2 more bars, watching as some strength returned to her movements. The sun was beginning to set, casting the forest in deep shadows. Jae-ho realized he had been working for hours, so focused on helping the creature that he had forgotten about time. He looked at his patient and made a decision that would change both their lives forever. "I cannot leave you here alone," he said, gathering dead branches from around the clearing. "Not in your condition." Using his portable field generator, Jeho created a basic shelter against a large tree. He lined it with soft moss and his emergency blanket, making a comfortable nest for the pregnant creature. She watched his every move with those intelligent eyes, and he could swear he saw gratitude in them. As darkness fell, Jeho built a small fire and settled down nearby. The creature had moved into the shelter and was resting more comfortably. He opened another ration pack and ate his own dinner, sharing bits of it with his unexpected companion. "You know," he said quietly, "my grandmother always said that kindness to animals brings good luck, though I doubt she ever imagined anything like this." The creature's ears perked up at his voice, and she made a soft sound that almost seemed like a response. Jeho smiled and continued talking, telling her about Earth, about his family, about his journey to this strange world. She listened to every word, her breathing gradually becoming more steady and peaceful. As the night deepened, Jeho found himself wondering what he had gotten himself into. His mission would have to wait. His reports would be delayed. But looking at the creature resting peacefully in the shelter he had built, he felt something he had not experienced in years of military service. A sense of purpose that went beyond duty and regulations. He did not know that this single act of compassion would soon make him the guardian of an entire world. All he knew was that tomorrow he would continue to help this strange, intelligent creature and her unborn young, no matter what challenges that might bring. 3 days had passed since Jeho found the wounded creature in the forest clearing. He had moved his temporary camp closer to her shelter, abandoning his original mission to care for his unexpected patient. The creature whom he had started calling Hannah after his sister back on Earth was growing stronger each day. Her wounds were healing well, but her pregnancy was advancing rapidly. On the third morning, Jeho woke to find Hannah pacing restlessly around the shelter. Her breathing was quick and shallow, and she kept looking at him with urgent eyes. He had seen enough farm animals on his grandfather's land to recognize the signs. Today was the day. "Easy, girl," he said softly, approaching her slowly. "I know it hurts, but everything will be okay." Hannah whined and pressed her massive head against his chest. The gesture surprised him with its trust and affection. For a moment he felt something strange, like a whisper at the edge of his mind. He shook his head, thinking it was just stress from the situation. As the morning progressed, Hannah's contractions became stronger and more frequent. She retreated into the shelter, and Jeho positioned himself nearby, ready to help if needed. He had assisted with animal births before, but never with an alien species. He could only hope that the basic process would be similar. The labor was long and difficult. Hannah's cries of pain echoed through the forest, and Jeho felt helpless watching her suffer. He offered her water and spoke encouraging words, but there was little else he could do. As the hours passed, he began to worry that something was wrong. Then, as the sun reached its peak, something extraordinary happened. During a particularly intense contraction, Hannah reached out with her large paw and grasped Jeho's hand. The moment their skin touched, his mind exploded with sensation. Images flooded his consciousness. He saw the forest as Hannah saw it, alive with colors and energies invisible to human eyes. He felt her pain, her fear, but also her fierce determination to protect her unborn children. Most shocking of all, he sensed her intelligence far greater than any earth animal he had ever encountered. Through this strange connection, Jeho understood that Hannah was not just any creature. She was something special, something important. Images flashed through his mind of a great forest, ancient and sacred, with trees that touched the sky. He saw other creatures like Hannah, guardians of something precious and vital. The mental connection lasted only seconds, but it changed everything. When it faded, Jeho found himself looking into Hannah's eyes with new understanding. She was not just an animal in need of help. She was a sentient being, and somehow she had chosen to trust him completely. "I understand," he whispered, though he was not entirely sure what he understood. "I will help you through this." The first pup was born an hour later. It was tiny and perfect, covered in wet blue fur that already showed the silver markings of its mother. Jeho helped clean it while Hannah caught her breath for the next birth. The pup's eyes opened immediately, revealing the same intelligence he had seen in Hannah. The second pup came more easily, followed by the third and fourth. Each one was healthy and strong, their small bodies already showing signs of the unique beauty of their species. Jae-ho worked tirelessly, cleaning each newborn and making sure they could breathe properly as the last pup was born. Jae-ho felt the mental connection with Him-a strengthen. This time, instead of overwhelming images, he received clear emotions. Gratitude so profound it brought tears to his eyes. Love for her children, most surprisingly affection for him. Through their bond, Him-a shared more of her story. She showed him memories of the attack that had wounded her. The attackers were not from this world. They were something else, something terrible that had come from the stars. They had weapons that burned with cold fire, and they had come seeking something specific. Jae-ho saw through Hannah's memories that she had been fleeing from these attackers when he found her. They had been hunting her specifically, not just any creature of her kind. The reason was connected to the sacred forest he had glimpsed in her earlier visions, though the connection was still unclear to him, as the newborn pups nursed from there. Mother Jae-ho felt a strange sensation in his own body. His hands tingled with unfamiliar energy, and he noticed that his vision seemed sharper, more aware of the subtle movements in the forest around them. The bond with Him-a was changing him in ways he did not yet understand. That evening, as the family rested peacefully in the shelter, Jae-ho sat by the fire and tried to process what had happened. The telepathic connection with Him-a was unlike anything in his scientific training, according to everything he knew about biology and psychology. It should have been impossible. Yet he could feel Hannah's presence in his mind like a warm glow. When she was content, he felt peaceful. When one of the pups made a small cry, he felt her maternal concern. It was as if they were becoming two parts of the same being. Through their bond, Him-a began to teach him about her world. She showed him which plants were safe to eat and which were dangerous. She revealed the locations of freshwater sources and safe places to rest. Most importantly, she began to share knowledge about the sacred forest and why it was so important. Forest, Jae-ho learned, was not just a collection of trees. It was a living entity connected to the life force of the entire planet. For countless generations, creatures like Him-a had served as its guardians, protecting it from those who would harm it. The attackers she had fled from were enemies of all life, seeking to drain the forest's power for their own dark purposes. As the night deepened, Jae-ho realized that his simple act of kindness had connected him to something much larger than himself. He was no longer just a human explorer on an alien world. Through his bond with Him-a, he was becoming part of the planet's own defense system. The pups slept peacefully against their mother's warm fur, unaware of the greater destiny that awaited them all. Jae-ho watched over them, feeling a protectiveness he had never experienced before. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he would face them alongside this extraordinary family he had helped bring into the world. A week had passed since the birth of Hannah's pups, and Jae-ho noticed remarkable changes in both himself and the small family he now protected. The pups were growing at an incredible rate, already twice the size they had been at birth. Their eyes held the same deep intelligence as their mother, and sometimes Jae-ho caught them watching him with an awareness that seemed far beyond their age. More disturbing were the changes in himself. His connection with Him-a had grown stronger each day, and with it came abilities he could not explain. He could sense the movement of small animals in the forest long before seeing them. The alien plants no longer seemed foreign to him, and he instinctively knew which ones were safe to touch and which to avoid. On the 8th day, Him-a stood at the edge of their small camp and looked toward the deeper forest. Through their mental bond, Jae-ho felt her longing and understood what she wanted. It was time to go to the sacred forest, the place she had shown him in fragmented visions. The place that called to her like a second heartbeat. "You want to go home?" Jae-ho said quietly, approaching her. "But is it safe with the pups so young?" Him-a turned to him, and their connection flared with new intensity. Images filled his mind, clearer than ever before. He saw the sacred forest, as it truly was, not just a collection of trees, but a living network of consciousness that spanned the entire planet. Every root, every leaf, every flower was connected in a vast web of life that pulsed with ancient wisdom. Through Hannah's memories, he learned that the forest had been choosing guardians for thousands of years. Each guardian was connected to the forest's consciousness, able to communicate with all living things within its borders. They were protectors, healers, and guides, ensuring that the delicate balance of life was never broken. But the forest was dying. The attackers Him.a had fled from were called the Rachnari, and they had been systematically destroying sacred groves across the galaxy. They fed on the life force of entire worlds, draining them until nothing remained but empty rock and dead soil. This forest was one of the last of its kind, and without proper guardians, it would soon fall to the same fate. The most shocking revelation came last. By showing kindness to Him.a in her moment of greatest need, Jeho had been chosen by the forest. Itself, the bond between them was not just friendship or mutual protection. It was the forest's way of creating a new guardian, one who could bridge the gap between species and bring new strength to the ancient protection. "I understand now," Jeho whispered, his hand resting on Hannah's head. "The forest chose me when I chose to help you." The journey to the sacred forest took most of the day. Him.a led the way, carrying 2 pups, while Jeho carried the other 2 in a makeshift sling. As they traveled deeper into the alien landscape, the very air seemed to change around them. It became richer, more alive, filled with scents and sounds. That made his enhanced senses sing. The trees grew larger and more beautiful as they approached their destination. Their spiral trunks reached impossible heights, and their silver bark seemed to glow with inner light. Flowers bloomed in perfect geometric patterns, and the grass beneath their feet felt soft as silk. When they finally reached the heart of the sacred forest, Jeho stopped in amazement. The trees here were ancient beyond measure. They're massive, trunks forming a perfect circle around a clearing where a single tree stood alone. The central tree was unlike the others, its bark golden instead of silver, its branches reaching toward the sky like arms in prayer. As soon as Him.a stepped into the clearing, the entire forest seemed to come alive. The golden tree's leaves rustled without wind, and a deep humming sound filled the air. Jeho felt the forest's consciousness touch his mind, gentle but overwhelming in its vastness. "Welcome, young guardian," a voice spoke in his thoughts. It was not words, but pure meaning, conveying acceptance and gratitude. "You have shown the compassion that marks all true protectors." The forest's presence in his mind was unlike anything he had experienced. It was ancient beyond human comprehension, yet gentle and nurturing. Through this connection, he learned the true scope of what he had become part of. The sacred forest was not just a single location, but a network of consciousness that connected all living things on the planet. Every creature that lived within the forest's influence was part of this network. The smallest insect, the largest predator, every plant and tree, all shared in the collective awareness. As a guardian, Jeho would be able to communicate with all of them, to understand their needs and coordinate their actions. But with this gift came responsibility. The forest showed him visions of what the Rachnari had done to other worlds. He saw planets stripped bare of life, their surfaces cracked and lifeless. He felt the death cries of countless sacred groves as they were consumed by the hungry darkness that followed the Rachnari wherever they went. The forest's message was clear. Rachnari would return, and when they did, they would bring weapons, and machines designed specifically to destroy the sacred grove. The forest could defend itself to some degree, but it needed guardians who could think tactically, who could plan and organize resistance. As the forest's consciousness withdrew from his mind, Jeho felt profound changes beginning in his body. His human DNA was being gently modified, enhanced to better interface with the forest's network. His senses became even sharper. He could feel the pulse of life flowing through every living thing around him. Him.a nuzzled against him, her own connection to the forest stronger than ever. The pups had fallen asleep in the soft grass, but even in their dreams, Jeho could sense their growing awareness of their role as future guardians. That night, as they rested beneath the golden tree, Jeho felt the forest's streams flowing through. His mind, he saw possible futures, some bright with hope, others dark with destruction. In all of them, he stood as a bridge between the human understanding of tactics and technology and the forest's ancient wisdom. The next morning, he woke to find that he could hear the thoughts of every creature in the forest. Birds sang reports of movement in the distant sky. Small mammals shared news of strange scents on the wind. The trees themselves whispered warnings of danger approaching from the stars. The Ragnar were coming, and this time they would not be satisfied with simply wounding a single guardian. Were preparing for total war against the sacred forest itself. The warning came at dawn on the third day after Jeho's arrival at the sacred forest. Every bird in the canopy began crying out in alarm, while the trees themselves seemed to shiver with fear. Through his connection to the forest network, Jeho felt the source of their terror long before he saw it with his own eyes. Ships were descending from the sky, black and angular vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The Ragnar had returned, and this time they came prepared for war. Jeho counted at least 12 ships, each one bristling with weapons designed to harvest life energy from living worlds. Hannah stood beside him at the edge of the clearing, her fur standing on end as she growled low in her throat. Her pups now, grown to the size of earth wolves despite being only 10 days old, pressed close to their mother's sides. Through their shared bond, Jeho felt their mixture of fear and fierce determination to protect their home. "How long do we have?" Jeho asked, though he already knew the answer from the forest's whispered warnings. The golden tree's leaves rustled with urgency. Hours, maybe less. The Ragnari commander, a creature called Vexcaller, had been hunting Hannah for months across different star systems. He knew exactly where to find the sacred forest and how to destroy it most efficiently. Jeho closed his eyes and reached out through the forest network. His consciousness expanded beyond his human body, touching every living thing within the grove's influence. He felt the presence of thousands of creatures, from tiny insects to massive tree dwellers, that had never been seen by human eyes. All of them were afraid, but all of them were ready to fight for their home. The first attack came from the forest's outer edge. Ragnar soldiers in powered armor began cutting down trees with plasma weapons, their goal to create a clear path to the sacred grove's heart. Each tree that fell sent waves of pain through the forest network, and Jeho felt every cut as if it were made on his own body. But the forest was not defenseless. Under Jeho's coordination, the wildlife began to fight back in ways the Ragnari had never encountered. Swarms of poisonous insects attacked the soldiers' exposed areas where their armor joints met. Large predators struck from the shadows, their natural camouflage making them nearly invisible until they pounced. Most effective of all were the trees themselves. With Jeho's human tactical knowledge guiding them, they began to actively resist. The Ragnari advance. Roots erupted from the ground to trip soldiers, while branches reached down to tear weapons from their hands. The forest had become a living fortress, every part of it working together to repel the invaders. Commander Vexcaller soon realized that this assault was unlike any he had faced before. The sacred groves on other worlds had been protected only by their native guardians, powerful but limited in their ability to coordinate large-scale resistance. Here, something new was happening. The forest was fighting back with intelligence and strategy. "There is a new guardian," Collar's voice crackled through the communication systems his soldiers carried. "Find it and destroy it. Maintain this level of resistance without a central coordinator." Jeho heard these words through the enhanced senses of a bird that had gotten close to the Ragnari command post. He understood that the battle's outcome would depend on his ability to stay hidden while continuing to coordinate the forest's defenses. As the day wore on, the fighting grew more intense. The Ragnari brought in heavy machinery, massive harvesting, devices that could drain the life energy from entire sections of forest in minutes. Jeho watched in horror as areas of beautiful woodland were reduced to gray ash. Their life force consumed to power the enemy's weapons, but for every section of forest they destroyed, the Ragnari paid a heavy price. Jeho had learned to use the forest's own geography against them. He guided streams to flood their equipment, caused landslides to block their advance, and coordinated attacks by the forest's most dangerous predators. Hannah proved to be a formidable warrior in her own right. Her bond with the forest gave her abilities that even Jeho was only beginning to understand. She could move through the trees like a ghost, appearing behind enemy lines to strike at critical moments. Her pups, though still young, showed remarkable intelligence in supporting their mother's attacks. The turning point came when Commander Vex Kalar decided to lead a direct assault on the Sacred Grove's heart. He had identified the Golden Tree as the source of the forest's power and believed that destroying it would break the network's ability to resist. Jeho felt the commander's approach through the forest's senses. Kalar was larger than his soldiers, his armor more advanced, and his weapons specifically designed to disrupt the connection between guardians and their sacred groves. This was the enemy Hannah had fled from, the one who had wounded her and nearly killed her unborn children. "He's coming for the Golden Tree," Jeho told Hannah through their mental link. "We have to stop him here, or everything we fought for will be lost." Hannah's response was filled with grim determination. She had been preparing for this moment since the day she first fled from Kalar's forces. Her pups were old enough to fight. Beside her, and with Jeho's tactical support, she felt ready to face her greatest enemy. The final confrontation was approaching, and Jeho realized that his human weapons and technology would not be enough. To defeat Commander Vex Kalar, he would need to embrace his transformation fully, to become something more than human. The forest was offering him greater power, but accepting it would mean giving up his old life forever. As Kalar's forces approached the Golden Tree, Jeho made his choice. He placed his hands on the ancient bark and opened his mind completely to the forest's consciousness. Power flooded through him, changing him in ways that could never be undone. The final battle was about to begin. The moment Jeho's hands touched the Golden Tree's bark, the world exploded into sensation. Power flowed through him like liquid lightning, rewriting his very DNA with each pulse. His human form began to change, not into something alien, but into something greater than either human or forest guardian alone. His skin took on a faint golden tint that matched the sacred tree's bark. His eyes became pools of deep green that seemed to hold the wisdom of the entire forest. Most remarkably, he could feel his consciousness expanding beyond his physical body, connecting him to every living thing within the grove's vast network. This new awareness, Jeho saw Commander Vex Kalar approaching with his elite soldiers. The Rachnerry commander was a massive creature, twice the size of a human. With armor that seemed to be made from the drained life energy of countless worlds, his weapons pulsed with dark power, specifically designed to sever the connection between guardians and their sacred groves. Finally, Kalar's voice echoed through the forest as he entered the clearing. "The new guardian shows himself. You have caused me considerable trouble, human, but your interference ends now." Jeho stepped away from the Golden Tree, his transformed body moving with fluid grace. He could feel the forest's power flowing through him, but more importantly, he could feel the tactical knowledge of his human mind merging with the ancient wisdom of the grove. "You're too late," Jeho said, his voice carrying the whisper of wind through leaves. "The forest has already chosen its defenders. We will not let you drain another world." Kalar laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "One half-transformed guardian and a wounded animal? You cannot stop what is coming. My harvesting machines are already feeding on your precious grove. Soon, all of this will be nothing but empty soil." The battle that followed was unlike anything Jeho had ever experienced. Kalar's weapons fired beams of pure entropy, designed to unravel the bonds that held living things together. But Jeho's new form could regenerate damage almost instantly. Drawing power from the forest's vast network of life, Hannah joined the fight. Her own connection to the grove enhanced by her pup's growing power. The four young guardians had matured, rapidly under the forest's influence, their intelligence now rivaling that of any adult. They worked together with perfect coordination, attacking Kalar's soldiers while their mother focused on the commander himself. But Kalar was prepared for this kind of resistance. His armor protected him from the forest's direct attacks. His weapons could disrupt the connection between guardians and their grove. Each time he fired at Jeho, the human felt his link to the forest weaken. "You see?" Kalar taunted as he landed a particularly devastating blow. Your power is borrowed, human. Mine is earned through conquest. I have drained the life from 1,000 worlds, and each one has made me stronger. Jeho staggered, feeling the forest's pain as another section was consumed by the Rachnarii harvesting machines. Realized that conventional fighting would not be enough to defeat this enemy. Kaler had spent centuries perfecting his techniques for destroying sacred groves and their guardians. Through his bond with the forest, Jeho sensed a deeper power, something that had been held in reserve for the most desperate moments. The golden tree itself was offering to merge with him completely, to make him not just a guardian but a living extension of the forest's consciousness. The price would be his humanity. If he accepted this final transformation, he would never again be able to leave the forest or return to his old life. It would become something new, something that had never existed before in the galaxy's long history. Hannah sensed his struggle, sent him a wave of encouragement through their bond. Her pups added their own support, their young minds filled with absolute faith in their adopted father's strength. They understood what he was considering, and they approved of his sacrifice. The forest offers you power, Kaler observed, his sensors detecting the energy building around the golden tree. But power comes with a price. Are you willing to give up everything you were for the chance to save this single world? Jeho looked at Hannah and her pups, at the golden tree that had become his anchor to this new existence, at the forest that stretched beyond the horizon. He thought of his old life, his mission, his dreams of exploring the galaxy. All of that would be lost if he accepted the forest's final gift. But he also thought of the worlds Kaler had already destroyed, the countless lives lost to the Rachnarii hunger for power. He remembered the day he first found Hannah wounded and alone, and how that single act of kindness had led him to this moment. Yes, he said simply, placing both hands on the golden tree. I choose to protect this world, whatever the cost. Transformation was immediate and overwhelming. Jeho's consciousness expanded beyond his physical form, spreading through the forest's root network and into every living thing within its borders. He could feel the thoughts of every creature, from the smallest insect to the mightiest predator. He was no longer just a guardian, but the living heart of the forest itself. Power flowed through him like a river of stars, could control the weather, accelerate plant growth, and command the loyalty of every creature in the grove. But most importantly, he could feel the forest's true strength. The accumulated wisdom and life force of thousands of years. Commander Vex Kaler stepped back in alarm as the very air around Jeho began to shimmer with power. The human's transformation was beyond anything the Rachnarii had encountered before. This was not just a guardian bonding with a sacred grove, but two forms of consciousness becoming one. Impossible, Kaler breathed. No organic being can contain that much power and survive? Jeho smiled, his form now glowing with the same golden light as the sacred tree. You're right, no organic being could survive this. But I'm not just organic anymore. I'm something new, something you can't understand or destroy. The final battle was about to begin, and for the first time since arriving on this world, Commander Vex Kaler felt something he had not experienced in centuries. Fear. The final battle between Jeho and Commander Vex Kaler shook the very foundations of the sacred forest. Power clashed against power as the transformed human drew upon abilities that had never before existed in the galaxy. Jeho was no longer bound by the limitations of flesh and blood, but had become something far greater than the sum of his parts. With a gesture, he caused the trees themselves to become weapons. Ancient oaks bent like bows, launching their massive branches like spears. The very ground beneath Kaler's feet erupted in waves, trying to swallow the Rachnarii commander whole. Lightning crashed down from a suddenly stormy sky, each bolt guided by Jeho's will, but Kaler was not defenseless. His armor had been forged from the life energy of countless worlds, and his weapons could disrupt the very fabric of existence. Each time he fired at Jeho, reality itself seemed to bend and twist. The commander had not conquered 1,000 worlds by being weak or unprepared. You are powerful, Kaler admitted as he deflected a wave of crushing roots. But you are untrained. I have been perfecting the art of grove destruction for centuries. Your raw power means nothing without the skill to use it properly. Jeho felt the truth in those words. His new abilities were vast but unfocused. He was like a child playing with forces beyond his understanding. He was not alone in this fight. Through his bond with the forest, he could feel Him.a and her pups coordinating their own attacks on Kallar's soldiers. More importantly, he could feel the forest itself teaching him. The golden tree had existed for thousands of years, and it had witnessed many battles. Through their merged consciousness, it shared its knowledge with him, showing him how to focus his power and use it with precision rather than brute force. The tide of battle began to turn. Jeho learned to anticipate Kallar's attacks, using the forest's collective senses to see through the commander's tactical deceptions. He began to fight not just with power, but with strategy, using his human military training in combination with the forest's ancient wisdom. As the battle raged, something unexpected began to happen. The forest's influence started to spread beyond its original boundaries. Everywhere Jeho's power touched, new growth erupted from the soil. The dead zones created by Kallar's harvesting machines began to heal, their life energy restored by the forest's expanding network. Kallar realized what was happening and fought with desperate fury. If the forest's influence spread too far, it would become impossible to destroy. His mission to drain this world would fail, and worse. He would lose access to the massive store of life energy he needed to continue his conquest of other worlds. You don't understand what you're doing, Kallar roared as he unleashed his most powerful weapons. The forest's expansion will attract other Ragnar fleets. They will come in numbers you cannot imagine, and they will burn this entire world to ash. Felt the forest's response to this threat. It was not fear but determination. The grove had always known that someday it would face a final test. A moment when it would either survive to spread its influence across the galaxy or be destroyed forever. That moment had come. Through the forest network, Jeho felt Him.a's fierce joy as she and her pups succeeded in destroying the last of Kallar's harvesting machines. The Ragnar soldiers were retreating, their weapons useless against the coordinated attacks of the forest's defenders. Only their commander remained, his armor cracked and his weapons failing. "It's over," Jeho said, his voice carrying the sound of wind through leaves. "Your machines are destroyed, your soldiers are fleeing, and the forest is stronger than ever. Leave this world and never return." But Kallar was not ready to admit defeat. In a final desperate act, he activated a device. Built into his armor's core, it was a weapon of last resort, designed to create a dead zone so vast that no life could ever grow there again. If he could not have the forest's power, he would ensure that no one else could either. "If I cannot claim this world's life," Kallar screamed, "then I will make certain it dies with me." The device began to pulse with terrible energy, creating a sphere of absolute death that expanded outward from Kallar's position. Everything it touched simply ceased to exist, not destroyed but erased from reality itself. The golden tree's leaves began to wither as the dead zone approached its ancient roots. Jeho realized that his new powers were not enough to stop this final attack. The device was too alien, too removed from the natural forces he could now command. But as despair began to fill his heart, he felt something unexpected through the forest network. Him.a and her pups were not retreating from the expanding dead zone. Instead, they were rushing toward it, their own connection to the forest burning, brighter than ever before. Through their bond, Jeho understood what they intended to do. "No," he whispered. But it was too late to stop them. The four young guardians reached the edge of the dead zone, and working together, created a barrier of pure life energy. They poured their own essence into this defense, using their connection to the forest to channel power far beyond their physical forms. The dead zone's expansion slowed, then stopped entirely. Him.a joined her children, adding her own strength to theirs. The barrier held, but Jeho could feel the terrible cost. His adopted family was sacrificing themselves to save the forest, burning away their life force to maintain the shield that protected the golden tree. With a cry of grief and rage, Jeho channeled every bit of power the forest could provide. He reached through the barrier his family had created and grasped Commander Vex Calor in bonds of living wood. The Rachni commander struggled, but his armor was failing, drained by the energy required to power his final weapon. "You have taken everything from me," Jeho said, his voice carrying the weight of mountains. "But you will take no more." The forest's judgment was swift and final. Calor's stolen life energy was drawn out of him, returned to the worlds he had destroyed. His armor crumbled, his weapons failed, and his body withered to dust. The device that had created the dead zone finally shut down, its power source exhausted. But the victory came at a terrible price. Hannah and her pups collapsed, their life force nearly spent in their desperate effort to protect the golden tree. Jeho knelt beside them, his transformed hands glowing with healing energy, but he could feel their spirits fading. "Thank you, Hannah," whispered through their bond. "We saved our home. Rest now," Jeho replied, tears streaming down his face. "The forest will remember your sacrifice forever." As his adopted family passed peacefully into the embrace of the forest's eternal consciousness, Jeho felt their essence merge with the golden tree itself. They had not truly died, but had become part of the forest's living memory. Their courage and love preserved forever in the grove's heart. In the days that followed, the forest's influence continued to spread across the planet. Everywhere it touched, life flourished with new abundance. The scars left by the Rachni assault healed. The dead zones became gardens of impossible beauty. Jeho remained at the heart of the forest. He was no longer fully human, but not entirely other. He had become something new, a bridge between species and worlds. Through him, the forest's wisdom could reach other planets, other sacred groves that needed protection. He sent a final message to his human colleagues, warning them about the Rachni threat and urging them to protect the natural worlds they encountered. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, but it was also full of dangers. Only by working together could the forces of life hope to survive against those who would consume everything. As the sun set over the sacred forest, Jeho felt a presence he had not expected. New guardians were coming, drawn by the forest's call. Some would be like Hannah's kind, others would be entirely different species. But all would share the same purpose, to protect the delicate balance of life. That made the universe beautiful. The forest had survived its greatest test, and now it would grow stronger than ever before. Under Jeho's guidance, it would spread its influence across the stars, creating a network of protected worlds that could stand against any threat. The age of the Eternal Guardian had begun.